Well, welcome to Coffee and Revelation. It's Monday. Hope you've had a good weekend. We are now into Revelation chapter 8. And I'm actually just going to read one verse because it's such an astonishing verse, and there's so much we could say about it. Revelation chapter 8, verse 1. When he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. It's just one, incredible detail, and two, what is really the significance for this? You know in your life that sometimes you want silence. I mean, we are here on our balcony just now, and you can hear the background noise of traffic, of trains. In the morning as well, you hear the birds, you can hear the neighbours, and sometimes you just do want silence. We live in a very noisy culture. There was a film, I thought it was a brilliant film, Martin Scorsese's Silence, about Christians in Japan being persecuted, and a very disturbing film in lots of ways. So, what does this silence in heaven mean? Does the silence of God mean the absence of God? Does it mean that God has left heaven? The answer is clearly no. It doesn't mean God has left heaven. What it does tell us is what was occurring was so dramatic and powerful that it demanded that the noise of prayers and praise was silenced, even in heaven. And silence in that sense is a dramatic device that really grasps your attention. Sometimes we make a noise to grasp people's attention, but sometimes silence can be very attention-grabbing as well. Have you ever been in a church service where at some point you could have heard a pin drop even in the midst of hundreds of people? I can recall several experiences like that, and it was, in the real sense of the word, truly awesome. There is a silence of awe, a silence of stillness. It's the fulfillment of the command, be still and know that I am God. There's also what I'd call the silence of comfort. Sometimes you're with people, and because you don't know each other, you talk non-stop. But other times you see a couple who are sitting in silence, not because they have nothing to say, but because they're comfortable just being in one another's presence. They don't feel the need to be talking all the time or making a noise all the time. Sometimes in the presence of God, there is that silence as well. Be still, my soul. And then a different silence is the silence of judgment. This is God not speaking to us. This is the period between Malachi and Matthew, the 400 years of silence. This is the silence which Scorsese's film was all about. Lord, why don't you speak? Why don't you act? In a relationship, there is one thing worse than a couple having an argument and shouting at each other. It's when there's silence, when neither is communicating. I'm reading a book just now on how disagreement can be good. Silence, when people are not speaking to one another, is rarely good. The worst thing that can happen to us as an individual, you as an individual, us as churches or society, is not that God speaks to us in rebuke, warning us, and in his anger, challenging us, but it's that he does not speak to us at all. We've just spent several Sundays with some friends going through Romans chapter 1. Romans 1 verse 21, for although they knew God, they neither glorified him as God nor gave thanks to him, but their thinking became futile, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools, and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images made to look like a mortal human being, and birds and animals and reptiles. Therefore God gave them over in the sinful desires of their hearts to sexual impurity for the degrading of their bodies with one another. They exchanged the truth about God for a lie, and worshipped and served created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised. Amen. That's the worst case scenario. We turn away from God. We say we don't need you. We don't want to hear your voice. We can make it on our own. And there is silence on earth. In Revelation 8, the silence in heaven is both the silence of awe and the silence of judgment. After the half hour, as we'll see tomorrow, all heaven breaks loose. The silence is broken by the 7 angels sounding their trumpets and the judgments of God beginning. But we'll leave that for tomorrow. I would have liked to clip on to the end here The Sound of Silence, the Disturbed version, but just go and Google it or find it on YouTube. I love Simon & Garfunkel's song, The Sound of Silence. Fool said I, you do not know. Silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words that I might teach you. Take my arms that I might reach you. But my words, like silent raindrops, fell and echoed in the wells of silence. And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made, and the sign flashed out its warning in the words that it was forming. And the sign said, the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls and whispered in the sounds of silence. Well, that's what we want. People to stop praying to the neon gods they've made and instead be listening to the words of the prophets and the word of God. God bless you, and see you tomorrow.